Hey y'all, it's Mike with Class People TCG, and I'm here to help y'all out if you're getting into the Digimon trading card game that came out back in 2020. So I know when I first started, it was really early on, and there wasn't really anything to kind of help guide me through the waters. I haven't played a trading card game in many years, and jumping back into it can be a little overwhelming, especially now with our new meta in BT6, and then of course EX01, all that fun stuff. But I'll go into all that later on in this video, or if it runs too long, I'll jump into the next video if I do make a second one. But yeah, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. First, I'm going to show off kind of what you should do when getting started. There are multiple ways. One, you can go ahead and buy a booster box, which right now, the prevalent one is Double Diamond, or the original one from 2020. But if it was me and I was saying, hey, you should buy this, I'd probably say buy at least one Double Diamond box, and then the two new starter decks, the 7 and 8, and that's a pretty good jumping off point. If you're not wanting to buy a booster box, then you don't have to. Some stores still have the singles of this, and if you do, just grab a couple, and it'll help you out a little bit. As for starter decks that are available, I'm going to use that term here a few times. 7 and 8 are available. I've seen them at Walmarts and Targets, and apparently GameStop has them. I haven't seen them there. They've also been at my local card shops. But the other ones that are available are a little bit older, but still good to have, are the starter decks 4, 5, and 6. These I've seen all over the place. You can grab them off Amazon or your local GameStop, or your game store, my bad. And it's good to have just so you know what you want to play. So, for example, you have 5 out of the 6 main colors. I say 6 because you also have white, which would be 7, but I'll go into that a little more later. So with having this variety, you can go ahead and kind of get a feel of what you like to play and what best fits your play style. If you like to trash or play from your trash, if you like to boost your power up, get multiple swings, if you like recovery, yellow's a little bit more recovery. If you like more jamming abilities, stuff like that. And then if you like recovery, go with yellow, but I'll go into that in just a moment. But at least this is a good way to kind of get you into, hey, I've spent a total of $50 here, and I'm going to try each deck out and see what I like to play. And I mean, it's a really good place to jump off at. The other 3 starter decks, which is 1, 2, and 3, they are pretty hard to come by. And if you do, people want premium dollar because the Greymons in this deck are worth like $15 a pop. So it's something where if you can find it for a relatively good price, go ahead and buy it. If not, then they're not needed. There are other options, but it's just something to kind of keep in mind whenever you're kind of getting started, which kind of leads me on to my second point. All right, so let's say you go ahead and you picked your favorite color, and your favorite color is blue, and now you want to go on to the next step, which is building your decks and what you should be doing, at least my recommendations for it. So let's say you want to, you've been playing for a little while, you played around 4, you played around with your buddies. Blue is the favorite. I love playing blue. It's super fun. So then I would suggest buying 1 meta deck and 1 fun to play deck. I'm not saying meta decks are not fun to play, but they are really good all the time. You have about 4 of them, 5 of them in this meta, which is Jesmon, 3 Musketeers, Gabu Bond, and then followed by Security Control, which won't die. As annoying as it is always going to be around, and it's complete opposite of how they want you to play the game, which is awesome, and I love that aspect. But I'm not the most favorite playing against it, but I love the fact that it's complete opposite. Anyways, so let's say you want to play a blue. The meta deck I would choose for it is definitely Gabu Bond. There are 2 variations of it that I've seen people playing and heavily played in tournaments. One is going to be your Rookie Rush version, and the other is going to be your Ancient Garurumon version. If it was me, I would say go ahead, build a Rookie Rush version of it, since that is arguably the best deck right now. As for your fun deck, it can be any other color. So let's say, hey, I played this, and my fun deck I really want to play is black was really fun to play. I liked the reboot ability, and then you know what? Red was fun to play. They seem to work out a lot together. Well, one of my favorite decks is Ragnarlord. So again, that's a red-black deck. It's not as good as Gabu Bond in this meta or anything along those lines, but it is still a good, fun deck to play. So, and that's kind of what I mean by fun, is you're not always going to win, but you might be able to get in those swings and surprise a couple people and just have fun at it versus always playing to win and kind of grinding that same deck out and getting burnt out on it. Next up, I wanted to go on to where to actually buy the cards. So there are two main places where you buy three main places. One, I'd say your local game store. That's a good way just to get a bulk number of cards. If you're wanting to buy specific cards, you have TCG Player and eBay. And that's where I found the bulk of what I have. If I buy something, then that's where you tend to buy them from. They both have their ups and downs. TCG Player has every card. You can buy as many as you want, and the only drawback that I've come across is sometimes they take a while to get in. If you're just getting started and you're buying your cards, I would say try to buy them all from the same seller or same couple of sellers and get it in bulk, grab it, and then play from there. The other place, eBay, a little bit higher prices, but they do ship faster from my experiences. You can't pick and choose as much as you normally would, but if you are in a pinch, eBay is good. There's a couple sellers that sell in sets of 4 for everything, and it's relatively cheap. And it's a good way to kind of go off into that. Two things I would say to avoid, I guess more or less one thing I would say to avoid are pre-built decks. And the two types of pre-built decks you'll see on there are tournament winners, and you'll see like Green Argamon, something along those lines. So the tournament winning decks, those either have alt art cards, or a lot of them tend to have alt art cards, or some super ultra rare card that jacks up the price. For example, I was looking at a deck earlier that on eBay, it was a tournament winning deck, which could be a locals tournament with 5 people there, or it could have been a tournament with 200 people, you don't know. And that was going for about $200 versus you kind of look at the cards, you compare the prices on TCG Player, and you're like, okay, well, I can build this deck for $100 or $75 and save a little bit of money that way. But it just does mean that you have to look a little bit for that and spend a little bit of time on it. The other thing you do see a lot of, which is kind of why I wanted to split this apart, but it ended up in the same thing, are pre-built decks that are not tournament winning, and what falls under that is your decks that they're called decks, but it's just a lot of cards. So they'll say, hey, 50 cards for $12, 50 random cards for $12, here you go. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. That's not necessarily what I like to do. I know some people like to, but that's not my thing. So I would try to avoid pre-built decks and the card lots, and then the pre-built tournament winning decks. Just kind of fair warning for that. For getting involved in the community, which is really, really easy. All it takes is a Discord. Honestly, it is that easy. The Discords I recommend are the Digimon TCG 2020, Mario's Gaming World, TrueChampionSteven is his YouTube name, and I'll link everything down below in him whenever it's all said and done. And then Primitive's Discord as well. So getting involved in those Discords, it really helps you play. They have a lot of online play. So for example, you jump down into webcam, say, hey, testing blue, or testing, which I've been doing lately, hey, testing blue, testing purple, or BT6, select what world you're going to be in, wait for someone to pop in, play a game or two, and kind of jump on to the next person, which is always a fun thing to do. And it's a quick pickup game. A lot of times you can knock it out real quick. If somebody misplays or something like that, you can kind of keep each other in check, and it's nice just to have that. Well, this is how you do this ruling versus other rulings, especially getting into the game. And for the most part, we're all here to help one another out in it. So if you are new, say, hey, I'm new. I might run a little bit slower, and we'll be more than happy to help you out if you're like, hey, you forgot to draw that after Digivolving, or hey, that's a draw Gabumon, make sure you draw after that. Hey, that effect after security pops out. And because we're here to test what we have and then play and have fun with it. And lastly, what I wanted to jump in was to go into the tournaments that you can end up playing in. You have your three main ones, which is your online, your ones through Bandai, and then your ones through your local. So if you do have a local shop that does run Digimon TCG or Bandai in general, so for a lot of times what I would see playing when I would go in and play the Digimon TCG in person at locals, you would have it alternating between Dragon Ball and Digimon, which is good, but you get less play time, and you have to have a evening to dedicate towards it, or sometimes it's an afternoon to dedicate towards it. And if you don't necessarily have that time to run down there or go do that, you can always play online tournaments. Some are free, some aren't. For example, Mario's Gaming World, I think it's a fairly cheap buy-in, and it was every Wednesday for a little while. Really cool to kind of get in there and to play around, and it's a good way to get the tournament style of play versus, hey, I'm just going to play on Discord and just kind of going from there. And then the last tournament you can go in is, of course, the big Bandai ones, which ends up in your regional tournaments, your the World Championships, and your championship tournaments in general, which usually have a buy-in and then prizing, all that fun stuff. I would say those are the most fun to play in, just from my experiences. I haven't come across anyone in those who have been a jerk or anything like that. Most of the time, they're really cool people to play against. And once you get to talking, you're like, yeah, I've been to Digimon for the past 20 years. They're like, oh, I've been to it for 15 years, or I just picked up this card game and it's been great. So the community itself is a really good community. Tournaments are really fun, and it's a way to kind of make it to where you want to keep playing. Also, the prizing is really cool. I will say that, especially for the upcoming Bandai tournament, the pricing is really, really cool. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and end it there. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Send me a message. Hit me up. Just let me know. If you are interested in deck building, play testing, anything like that, send me a message or comment, and then I'll get back with you and say, well, and help you out best I can. Like I said, I've been playing almost since it came out. I would say since BT 1.5 format, since everything wasn't available back at the time. But so I'm fairly knowledgeable, and I'll help you out with where I can. But even some stuff is out of my wheelhouse, and kind of what goes together with other things. But yeah, I'll go ahead and end it there. I do thank y'all for watching, and hope you have a good rest of your night.